What's going on, podcast universe? I hope you are having a fabulous day wherever you are when this hits your earwaves. A big thank you to you for being here for this episode of Beers and Beauties.
Doesn't matter if you got Coors, Busch, Bud Light, or a local shop's IPA. All beers are welcome at Beers and Beauties, baby. Let's go.
So you just heard that catchy little Beers and Beauties jingle. For this one, I probably should have we should have wrote something else. I don't know what it would have said. Maybe something like coffee with Cowie. Even though, quite honestly, I do not like coffee at all. I don't drink it. But if this is your first episode of Beauty Sports, you picked a weird one. My name's Alicia Cowison. People around here call me Cowie. Most times I would have my wonderful friend Addie sitting here in this chair next to me, but she isn't here today. If this is your 55th or 56th, whatever we're on episode, if you're a regular listener at Beauty Sports, also going to be a weird one for you. Any of the other 55 episodes that are up there, you would have heard us two voices at least, minimum. Either us or one of us and a guest or the two of us and a guest. Today, not so much. It's been an absolute blast to watch this community grow. We are committed to putting out a podcast every single week, and we appreciate you folks being here to listen. So before we hop into anything else on that note, if you don't already, the best place to follow us, honestly, is on Instagram. It's where we're the most active. You can find us at Beauty Sports Talk. If you want to follow along personally with Addie and I, you can follow Addie at Addie Miles Abbott. You can follow me at Cowie14. And the other ask is for your help in leaving a rating and review on the podcast. So whether you listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of the other gazillion apps and options out there to listen to podcasts, wherever you find them, if you're enjoying the show, today's or past, we would love it if you would leave us a 5-star rating and review. 5 stars only, like I said. The review, leave us some nice, kind words. It's a good pick-me-up for Addie and I on some tough days when we're struggling. We appreciate all those thoughtful comments. And it is really the best way to get this thing out there. It's, everything has an algorithm. We've all heard that term before. It is very true. And so the more you share it, the more you talk about it, those ratings really do help make sure that other people can find the podcast. If you are instantly wondering, what's going on, Cowie? Why is it just you? Whereas Addie, she is coaching this weekend, and last weekend when she left here, we recorded on Sunday last week. When she was leaving, I said, no, go have a great time. Don't worry about it. I got this. I'll figure it out. And figure it out has become a pretty regular comment around here for Addie and I. So this is me figuring it out. Not to make excuses, but I am going to share my excuses. This week, I was away traveling for work, and then I had a dear friend who turned 50, and we celebrated her this weekend. So that is why, now you're getting a probably much shorter than normal podcast episode that is a Cowie-only solo in your ears episode. You're welcome. Honestly, we have in the past, I think we've done an okay job of trying to talk about ourselves. It's an uncomfortable thing to do, to talk about yourself. But we've done an okay job. I think it is important for us to afford people an opportunity to get to know us and why the heck this means so much to us, who we are, how we got here, personally, why this matters. So that's what we're going to do a little bit of here today. And I was racking my brain on things I could talk about by myself, and that's hard to do. And as hard as it is to talk about yourself, there's not much you know more about than yourself. So, that's what we're going to do here today. Hopefully, my hope for you in this is that A, I hope you're not super bored. B, I hope you learn something about me. C, I hope you connect with some part of it. I hope there's something that resonates with you. And if there is, I hope that you will continue to share this podcast with your family and friends in hopes that we continue to grow this community. So earlier this year, I think it was February 1st, if I'm not mistaken, I was standing in my basement right where I am sitting right now, and I took a picture of myself I think I'm holding up my Beauties hoodie. Like I'm like kind of pointing at it. And in that post, I talked about, life changing. I had some health issues, and so I wasn't playing as much hockey and things. And so I was doing different challenges. I was started my MBA, and this podcast started. And I talked about getting comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's where true growth happens. And I stand by that still. I believe that. I've believed that for a long time. And it was something that resonated with me today as I was thinking back on, what can I talk about? What story can I tell you? How can I give you a level of insight into me on a podcast? And so when I think back to sports in general, I don't remember starting to play sports. I just one of those things I think you just always did, or it feels like you always did. My parents signed me up for the things I had interest in. And I played ball. I biked a lot. I never played soccer because there was no soccer in Surrey at the time. I did can skate, like where they have the markers and they write on the ice and then you do like a recital at the end of it for your parents. So it's kind of weird, but I did can skate. I loved mini sticks. I loved phys ed class. Like honestly, I just really love to play and I really love to compete. And I really love to win, honestly, if I'm being totally honest. And so my whole childhood kind of just felt like that, right? And then in grade 5, I had my grade 5 teacher was the guy who really pushed me to sign up and try out for hockey. And at the time, I think I was playing like Saturday morning rec hockey where everyone's a hodgepodge. Like no one had matching jerseys or anything. It's just shinny, basically. There was no girls hockey in Surrey at the time. And so going into my grade 6 school year, I took his advice and I signed up for hockey. And in Surrey at the time, so this was Adam hockey, which would be like U11 hockey. And there was an A team and a B team. So we can unpack that on another episode of why that's gross. But I ended up making this A team. And so I'm a hockey player at that point. And that was kind of the beginning of, I started to double roster. There's no girls hockey yet in Surrey. And so played a couple years of hockey in Deloraine and a couple years of hockey in Holland, Manitoba, year in Brandon. And yeah, that was the beginning of my hockey journey. I had great coaches my first year. Honestly, we hit like the dad jackpot where we had really knowledgeable, great teachers of the game were some of my first coaches. And I learned a ton about hockey that first season. And, it's funny. I feel like I always loved hockey, but when I think back, like I definitely in that first year fell in love with the game of hockey. And ironically enough, at the same time that I'm falling in love with this game that I still love, I was having the time of my life in a completely different way. I was in doctor's offices. I was a regular visitor at Children's Hospital. I had a specialist, a gastroenterologist. At the time, he was called Dr. Morose at Children's. He was fantastic. I was getting all sorts of tests, and we were doing it all in secret. We didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want anyone to know. I say we as a collective family, but it was really at my decision. I didn't want people around me to know. I remember having extraordinary abdominal pain. I remember having like passing blood when I would go to the bathroom, being in constant discomfort, being exhausted, like literally exhausted. And, when I look back now, man, hockey got me through some really, really dark days that year. And, the fate of starting hockey at the same time that all this is happening, you can't help but think that the universe is a cool place when you listen to it. And I'm so glad that that's when I started it. So if I'm rambling here and you don't know me well enough, or you don't know this part of my life, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when I was 11. And so that same year that I started playing hockey, I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And if you've never heard of ulcerative colitis, like, you're not the first one, you won't be the last. It's what's the best way to describe it? If you've heard of Crohn's disease, it's very similar to that. It's an inflammatory bowel disease. Crohn's and colitis just affect different parts of your gastrointestinal tract. And so, yeah, I think, that UC diagnosis really, I would say it just altered my life path in a lot of ways. It's the first time in my life I remember feeling completely out of control, like out of control. Didn't matter what I did. My body was just doing its thing. And one of the things that I love about sports is that even in team sports, there's a level of control you have in how you contribute to your team, how you contribute to your collective goal. And, I was the kid that, and I still am, I wanted the ball. I want the bat in my hand if we're down. I want to be up at the plate. I want the puck on my stick in overtime. I wanted that control to be able to impact a game, to compete, to win. And yeah, I was completely out of control of what was going on with me. But thankfully, that first, entry into colitis was pretty short-lived. I went into remission pretty quickly, and I had a couple years there off the start that were relatively normal once I got healthy. And then, so, for 3 years, keeping in mind, still no one knows. We're doing this all behind closed doors. So 3 years go by, and colitis decides to flare up in a major way, like real bad. And I still don't want anyone in my town to know. But my medication routine is almost 30 pills a day, 29 and a half pills a day. God bless my mom, who cut the half pill every day. And one of those pills, or a handful of those pills that were on my daily routine, were a corticosteroid called prednisone. And prednisone, if you've ever taken it or know someone who has, is the devil, I think. It sucks. I couldn't sleep on it. I was super jittery, and it changes your appearance, or it did for me. I was on a really high dose, and so I had moon face. So I looked like a little chipmunk, a 14-year-old chipmunk. Had a very hard time in life to have these body image things where I looked so different. I couldn't hide. I instantly couldn't hide. People that knew something was up because I'd missed school and things like that, but didn't know, instantly were starting to ask questions. And so right at that same time, my mom started volunteering with Crohn's and Colitis Canada, and I was pissed about it because now everybody knew. And in a small town, it's not that I have so much love and trust for the people in that town, but I didn't want to be different. I didn't want the attention. I didn't want people to worry about me. I didn't want sympathy, or I didn't want people to treat me any different than they ever had. But in signing up for Crohn's and Colitis Canada, what we ended up doing that year was volunteering for their annual fundraiser, which is called the Gutsy Walk. And in doing that, my mom volunteered me to be the honorary chair. So I went from no one knowing my story, no one knowing what was up with me, to having it posted in the newspaper, my colitis journey. And so why I tell that story now is back to the getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And let me tell you, I was very uncomfortable sharing what was up with me and my body. I was at this lack of control. I had this disease I had. And in getting comfortable being uncomfortable, in volunteering, in public speaking, talking about myself, talking about this journey, this story, it turned into not wanting to have any other Alicia get colitis when she was a kid, or he was a kid, or they were a kid, and feel like they had to hide. I would volunteer. I have spoke at conferences in Toronto. I have shared this story far and wide. But when I think back, hockey, volleyball, fastball. Those are my big three that I loved. My teammates, my coaches, they all played a part in helping me be I call it a healthy, sick person. I had some horrible, horrible, horrible years. I remember I have a picture of volleyball provincials and I don't recognize myself because my face is so blown up. Yeah, I remember being that, moon face. I remember biking to the hospital in Surrey to get iron injections, which at the time, for me anyway, I had to get my butt cheek. So I could bike to them, but I had to walk my bike home from them. I remember, hugging garbage cans on the side of the bench at hockey. My hemoglobin was like in the 60s, and that was an improvement. And I was exhausted, and I refused not to play. So instead, when my body was screaming at me to stop, I would continue, and I would just hug this garbage can on the side of the bench when I needed to. I remember phoning my mom from university in a panic. Those 29.5 pills a day that I was on, I was trying to basically self-medicate and figure out. I went into a flare-up in university, and I had no control. Completely lost control. And it's called erythema nodosum. It looks like it's inflammation just in the tissue, fatty tissue just below your skin. And it starts out looking like paintball welts, but they get bigger as the inflammation continues to grow. And I remember it hurt to lie in bed, never mind put my hockey equipment on. And I was chasing health for the sole purpose of hockey, of sports, of competing, of the camaraderie, of this community that I love and I loved at the time. I still chase health today. Honestly, I do. I'm a 35-year-old woman who has a wellness routine. I do acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture on a regular basis. I have regular chiropractic. I have a gastroenterologist, and it's all in the name of health. And so when I think about Beauties, when I think about this podcast, when I think about Addie as an old teammate who is now my friend, when I think about my wife who is an athlete, was an athlete, is a coach, there's so many parts of my life. The 50th birthday party that I was just at this weekend was people I met through hockey. And getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and the growth that I've experienced in my life by following that on the hard days, on the days where you feel no control, remembering that it's okay to be uncomfortable. Sometimes I think that we sometimes lose perspective, or we lose the vision of what sports is supposed to be. I often talk about in my work life that I think a lot of what makes me a strong employee, I've learned through sports. I really, truly believe so much of my personal life, me as a human, I've learned through sports. And so when I think about Beauties, this is why on the days where we don't have a guest and it's me getting comfy, being uncomfy in my basement, talking to a microphone, telling a story, that I continue to do it. Because we need community, we need connection. I know what community and connection has offered me in my life through sports. My hope is as we see this community continue to grow, that people are connected across sports. I hope that, where the 11-year-old Cowie or 13-year-old Cowie or 15-year-old Cowie would meet people at tournaments and things. I hope that Beauties becomes a place of connection where athletes and coaches and parents feel like they are seen, where they know they're accepted, and where we remind ourselves that kind of gut check of why we're here, what we're doing, and why it matters. I think sports is an incredible vehicle, and I just want to make sure that we all continue to do it for the right reasons and for the love of the game, whichever game that is. So that's a weird episode. That's a weird story. It's a weird story to tell. Hopefully my message to you and what I hope you take away from that is that there's a lot more to people than sometimes we remember to. And so, make sure to be kind, make sure to think about the words we use, make sure that we are just conscious of other people and what they may be going through, and reminder that sports really is meant to be done because we love it. So thank you for sitting through a random frickin' episode with me. We aren't going to do this on a regular basis, trust me, because as much as I like getting comfy, being uncomfy and growing, this is hard. So I appreciate you. Addie appreciates you. We appreciate you. Again, like I said off the top of the show, find us on Instagram at Beauties Sports Talk. Find Addie at Addie Miles Abbott. You can find me at Cowie14. Make sure to head on over and leave us a rating and review. Maybe don't base it on this episode necessarily, but we would really love your support in that, a 5-star rating and a review. And if there's something in one of these episodes that resonates with you, make sure that you share it with a friend. And come on back to see us next week, where we'll talk a little bit more about sports and we'll get out of this weird role to talking just about me. Like I said, I appreciate you being here. Next week will be a little bit more normal, whatever normal means. Cheers, guys. Thanks.